What's going on, Mets fans, and welcome back to Everything Mets. I hope everyone's having an alright day. The Mets dropped their spring training openers of the Marlins 2-0. Today we're just going to do a little review of that game and talk a little bit about that, some positive things that I saw, some negative things, and just get into some stats from the game and just go over the game since nobody could really see it since it wasn't televised. It was only on radio, and it was Marlins radio at that, so it wasn't even Mets announcers with Howie or Wayne. So getting into the review a little bit, Harold Gonzalez started on the mound for the Mets today, and the starting nine for the Mets looked like, and they went with a DH in the spring training, obviously, to start off in the spring. Nemo started off in center, leading off. Lindor played at short. Alonso over at first. JD was over at third. Villar was over at second. Pilar was in right field. Jose Martinez started in left. Tomas Nido was behind the plate at catcher, and Mazeika rounded things off down in the 9-hole, DHing for the Mets today. But starting off the game, Brandon Nimmo led off, got a hit through the infield, but he was thrown out at first trying to get back. But honestly, it's the first play of the spring, so honestly, you can't even get upset at all, and it is what it is. And then Lindor came up, he grounded out to the pitcher in his first at bat in a Mets uniform in the spring. And then Alonso came up, he walked, and then JD got a hit to foul him up and move him over. And then Villar left two runners on, and that was really a theme today, leaving runners on. And you'll see that as I go through, because I'm going to go through play by play, because nobody could see the game today. So even for people who didn't see the game, this will probably be at least somewhat of a visual of what happened. And so just wanted to get that out of the way quick. Then moving on to the bottom of the first, it was a quick 1-2-3 inning for Harold Gonzalez as he got two lineouts to right field, and then he got a strikeout also against Aguilar. He would also make a big splash. He got the 2 runs for the Marlins later with a home run. We'll get to that later. Kevin Pillar then grounded out to lead off the top of the second to first base, and then Jose Martinez fouled him up and lined out to second. And then Nido grounded out to second base as well. So the Marlins starter moved through the 2 innings pretty quickly. Sandy Alcantara, he moved pretty quickly through the 2 innings. And then moving on to the bottom of the second, the pitching changed, and that was a pretty constant theme all day. Each pitcher for the Mets only went 1 inning. And through the first 3, it was moving pretty slowly, and you'll see I made a note. Through the first 3 pitchers, they only had thrown 24 pitches, and 18 of them were for strikes. So this game was moving along pretty quickly, and even it was pretty quick. It was still a 2-hour game, so just want to throw that in there. But moving on to the bottom of the second, pitching change was Sean Reed Foley came in for Harold Gonzalez, and he got Adam Duvall to fly out in his first at bat to Nemo in center field, along with Anderson, who flew out to center field, and then Miguel Rojas grounded out to third base to end the bottom of the second. So Foley came in and had a good day for the Mets. Mazeika started off the top of the third and walked to lead off. Nemo then singled on a hard grounder to center field. And then Lindor lined out to left field, and the runners stayed where they were at. Polar Bear Pete then came up with 2 runners on, but he grounded out to second into a force out. Grounded into a force out at second, and Mazeika went to third, and Alonso was over at first as JD came up, but he popped out to second. And he left runners on at first and third. So there you see again, two runners left on again for the Mets. So that it was just a constant theme throughout the day. And if they could have capitalized on some of that, they would have won the game today. But that's okay. It's the first game of spring. Moving on to the bottom of the third, Stephen Tarpley came in for Sean Reed Foley as the Mets made another pitching change. He got Isan Diaz to fly out to center field, and then Jose Alfaro to strike out swinging. He also got Lewis Brinson to pop out the third in foul territory to finish off the bottom of the third. And that was the third straight 1-2-3 inning for the Mets. As it was smooth sailing, like I said, only 24 pitches were thrown through the first 3 innings. So it was looking good for the Mets there through 3. Then moving on to the top of the 4th inning, Jonathan Villar started it off for the Mets. He grounded out to shortstop. Kevin Pillar then came up next, and he got a hit through the infield into left center field. And he was trying to extend it into a double, and he was thrown out by Starling Marte on trying to extend it to that double, but he came hustling out the box according to the Marlins announcers. So, and honestly, like I keep saying, it's the first game of the spring, so trying to make a play and just the hustle is good. So And then to end off the inning, Jose Martinez just lined out to right field to Lewis Brinson to end off the inning. Moving on to the bottom of the fourth, and this is where it started, the tide changed a little bit for the Mets. Riley Gillum came in for Stephen Tarpley. Corey Dickerson grounded out to shortstop to start off the bottom of the fourth inning for the Marlins. In the next at-bat, Gillum got behind Marte and 3-0 on 3-0 count, and Marte tripled and a hard grounder to left field. And then the next at-bat after that on a 3-1 count when Gillum got behind on Jesus Aguilar, and he homered to left field and made it a 2-0 lead for Miami. Gillum then got Adam Duvall to strike out looking, and then he also got Anderson to pop out to third base in foul territory to end off the bottom of the fourth inning. So honestly, he's the only pitcher that struggled today in my eyes, and really it's clear that he's the only pitcher that struggled today in the one inning of work that he had. But hopefully he bounces back next appearance he gets, and he can bounce back like I said. Moving on to the top of the fifth inning, Tomas Nido started off and he struck out swinging on a 3-2 count. Mazeika then came up and grounded out to second base. And then Brandon Nemo came up and struck out swinging to make it a 1-2-3 inning for the Mets in the top of the fifth. Moving on to the bottom of the fifth, and this is when mass subs happened for the Mets. We'll start off with a pitching change. Thomas Szapucki came in for Riley Gillum. And then getting on to the position player subs, we'll just go in the order, the batting order. Malik Smith came in for Brandon Nimmo in center field. Ronnie Mauricio came in at shortstop for Lindor. Jake Hager came in at first for Alonso. Mark Vientos came in at third for JD. At second, Jose Peraza came in for Jonathan Villar, In right field, Khalil Lee came in for Kevin Pillar. In left field, Jonashay Fargas, That's a name and a half right there. I mean, that's going to be a name that struggles all spring. And if he makes the team somehow. But he came in for Jose Martinez in left field. And then Bruce Maxwell came in at catcher for Tomas Nido. So those are all the subs, mass amount of subs there going into the bottom of the fifth. But moving on to the bottom of the fifth in review of that, Thomas Szapucki got his inning of work started off against Miguel Rojas, who singled to center field where Malik Smith stumbled, according to the radio announcers for the Marlins. So I guess that happened. I'm not really sure. I couldn't see. Then Luis Marte for the Marlins came up and flied into a double play, and Rojas was doubled off at first. Sandy Leon then came up for the Marlins, and he drew a walk. A wild pitch by Thomas Szapucki then got Leon over to second, and then Jesus Sanchez struck out looking to end the inning off for the Marlins as Szapucki struck him out. Moving on to the top of the sixth inning, Mauricio got the inning started off for the Mets, and he was called out looking at the third strike, but it was a decent at-bat. He fouled off a few pitches. It was good just to see the young number 2 prospect in our organization in there and just getting some work, and it's just nice to see him out there after he didn't play at all last year. Jake Hager then came up and he grounded out to the pitcher, and then Mark Vientos drew a walk, and Jose Peraza also drew his second straight walk, and then Khalil Lee came up and he left the 2 runners on base as he struck out looking on 3 straight strikes. So moving on into the bottom of the sixth, the pitching change for this inning was Trevor Hildenberger came in for Thomas Szapucki for the Mets. He had a little bit of a tough inning, but not really. It was just a long inning, honestly. But he got 3 strikeouts in the inning, and that was the most strikeouts of any pitcher on the day for the Mets. But his inning started off with Connor Scott being called out looking at the third strike. Cameron Misner then came up for the Marlins and drew a 4-pitch walk. Lewin Diaz then came up for the Marlins and doubled to right field. Misner went to third. Peyton Burdick then drew a full count walk, and that loaded the bases for the Marlins. Joe Duden then came up for the Marlins, and he was called out on strikes. And according to the Marlins announcers, Hildenberger got bailed out by home plate ump Andy Fletcher, at least according to them. I mean, I don't know. I couldn't see it, so if they said it, I guess it happened today. And then the final batter of the inning, Nazim Nunez, came up, but he struck out looking, It was a good bounce back by Hildenberger after those few walks, and he honestly finished with 3 strikeouts, so it was a good appearance really by him. Just needs to cut those walks out. Vargas then came up in the top of the 7th to start off for the Mets, and he grounded to third base on a ball that caught third baseman Joe Dudan in the face. He was alright, and he stayed in the game for the Marlins. Bruce Maxwell next came up for the Mets, and he was hit by a pitch in his first and only pitch he saw, in his only at-bat he saw in the game. Francisco Alvarez then came in as a pinch hitter for Mazica, and he grounded into a double play because Maxwell stopped and didn't keep running to second base, and Vargas got over to third on that. Malik Smith then came up as the final batter in the top of the 7th inning, and he flew out to center field to end the top of the 7th for the Mets. And even though the Marlins were winning 2-0, the game should have been done since they were only playing 7 innings today in the spring training opener. They did play a bottom of the 7th so the Marlins could get some at-bats and Daniel Zamora could get on the mound for the Mets as he came in for Trevor Hildenberger, So in the bottom of the 7th, Jose Devers flew out to center field for the Marlins. Sandy Leon then came up and he singled to right field for the Marlins. Leon then stole second. No throw came from the catcher. Brian Miller then came up for Miami, and he popped out in foul territory to third base. And then the final batter of the game, Brian Nervetto, came up and he struck out swinging to end the game off for the Mets and the Marlins in the Mets spring training opener, and they dropped the game 2-0. And that's okay, though. It's just a spring training opener. It doesn't count for nothing, obviously, and everyone knows that. So now we're just going to get into some stats quick, and then we're going to get on out of here. And right now in the video, it should be popping up with the box score and the stats and everything like that from the game. Just a screenshot of that type of stuff and everything like that. If you need to see that and everything. And if you want to see that, just pause. And I'll leave that up there for a second. But one more thing that we do on my reviews and just how this is going to work. I always have a player of the game for every game. And I also do like a player of the series. But we'll talk about that once the regular season gets here. And we can talk about that and get into that later. But my player of the game today was Brandon Nemo. He went 2 for 3. He's the only player that really stood out at all really today. Only one that got multiple hits besides just one. So, and my pitcher, if I had to pick one that really stood out, was Hildenberger. And Gillum had a rough day. He just got roughed around. But honestly, hope he'll bounce back. It's just the first start of his first appearance of the spring, So hopefully he bounces back, and he most likely will. And that's it for your spring training Mets opener review. If you enjoyed, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more Mets content. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their night. I'll talk to you later. Josh out.